all about getting in the LCS.
We try to just start a bit over as a team now and go strong into relegation.
Hoy jugamos un partido contra Reason Gaming para decidir si nos quedamos o no en la LCS. Sí, ya les hemos ganado varias veces en el torneo de expansión, así que creemos que tenemos capacidad de sobra para volver a hacerlo.
Last time we didn't prepare for them, and this is time for revenge.
Haber jugado contra los mejores va a ser una carta que juega a nuestro favor.
So right now it's super important to show that we still can beat a good team that can play in the LCS.
We are pretty much not known. We're gonna give it everything we have, of course, show them who we are.
I'm really sure that I want to win. I want to win everything.
Para mí es vital porque después de jugar en la LCS no me imagino jugando en una liga inferior.
I want to be back into LCS, you know. We'll just give our best.
Yo voy muy motivado hoy, voy sin ningún miedo.
Hello and welcome to the European League of Legends Championship Series Promotion Tournament. We are extremely excited to be back here in our studios in Berlin, Germany, after a short stint in Spain where we wrapped up the spring split of the LCS. Giants, of course, unable to make playoffs, but they were in-house hanging out with fans. We do see Reason Gaming stepping on stage, trying to take a spot in the summer split. And the opening shoutcasters for today will be Pulse from the Challenger Series and, of course, Deficio from the LCS. My name is Trevor Quickshot Henry, filling in for EFS Sharks de Porto today. And joining me will, of course, be James Tracer O'Leary from the Challenger Series, as well as the second-place Spring Split coach, Fabian Sheepy Malant.
Malant? Yeah.
I've been practicing. First, let's take a look back at the Spring Split and how it ended up and how we got here. Let's start with the finals. Fnatic winning 3-2. It was exciting. It was a spectacle. And in your opening debut LCS split, you make final, Sheepy. What's your takeaway from last weekend in Spain?
Absolutely mind-blowing that we actually reached to come so far. It feels more like we won second place going there. And I don't know, the game was exciting and it was 5-game series, so I think it was good for everybody.
It's crazy, especially, you know, I've watched Unicorns of Love kind of grow as a team over the last year. The atmosphere inside the Palacio Vista Alegre was electric.
Yeah.
I had hairs just standing on the back of my neck the entire time throughout the third place game and the finals. Great performance, but can't take it away from Fnatic. Again, they're in the finals of the EU LCS, and again, they take the crown. 5
consecutive finals, 4 titles. There is no dominant team that can top Fnatic. But we have to take a look at the less glamorous side of the spring split. The reason we're here in the promotion tournament, the fact that Roccat placed 8th and Giants placed 9th. Giants, in fact, winning that tiebreaker match with Meteor Makers to give themselves a shot to come back into the LCS. Sheepy, you've been playing against both of these teams all split long. What's your take on Roccat and Giants and, you know, overall their performances in spring?
Both teams we have actually a 1-1 series against, and both teams are capable of playing a really strong game. I think Roccat came in way more expected than they actually came out. 8th place was something that I think nobody expected them to sit on. Like, I think everybody expected them to perform really way better than they actually did. And they had the superstar lineup coming into the LCS and then kind of fell apart.
Yeah, it really did. For challenger teams, it's a slightly different story because Copenhagen Wolves Alliance, team formerly Lowland Lions during the regular split, they surprised everybody, placed 2nd. And of course, that was losing to Origin in the playoffs. Reason Gaming, surprising Gamers 2, coming back in that series. Those are the 2 teams in the promotion tournament. Stress, you've been casting them and you cast all the playoffs. What's your take on both Copenhagen Wolves Academy and Reason Gaming?
Both of those 2 challenger teams have completely different stories. It's 2 sides of a coin. Almost nobody expected the Wolves Academy to be performing to the level they have done, so they have surprised up until that finals. Reason, on the other hand, they've been around the challenger scene forever, and everybody has always said they're always going to be starting to contend, but have never reached the highest highs. This time, can they do it? There is a bit of expectation coming into today's series.
There definitely is, and there's a wealth of players on that Reason Gaming roster that have been in the LCS in 2013. We'll see if that experience helps them out. So all 4 of these teams will be fighting to claim the 2 remaining spots in the European LCS Summer Split. Origin were the first new team to join us for winning the Challenger Series, taking down Copenhagen Wolves Academy. That means they are replacing Meet Your Makers. They'll be joining the following teams in summer: Fnatic, Unicorns of Love, H2K, SK, Gambit, Copenhagen Wolves, and Elements. And from the 4 teams we have on stage today, we will be rounding out that 10-team split. It will bring us to today, where these 2 LCS teams will be crowned on stage. We're going to start with Giants versus Reason Gaming. We're going to follow that with Roccat versus Copenhagen Wolves. Roccat were the higher seeded LCS team, which meant they got to pick between Copenhagen Wolves Academy and Reason. They picked Copenhagen Wolves Academy, the 2nd place seed. Stress, why do you think they did that?
It's a very weird decision when you look at it. The higher seed picking the higher seed, it kind of reminds me of, if you remember all the way back when Unicorns came into the LCS, Millennium picked Unicorns, who everybody thought individually were the stronger team, and Millennium exited the LCS at that point. Roccat feel like they have the advantage here. We know they're very strong. It's a confident play by them saying, hey, let's hope that the Wolves Academy break down. Honestly, like they did against Origin on stage.
Well, we'll have to find out. There's a whole lot on the line. If you guys at home want to brush up on these teams before the games begin, head over to lolesports.com. You can recap the climb through the Challenger Series, study up on all the rosters and players, look at the stats, and also vote for who you think will come out on top. Click on the schedule link. Throw your thumbs up to whoever you think will claim the prize. And before we get to that matchup, we want to check in with you guys at home. Tweet at LOL Esports and let us know, which promotion tournament team do you think has the potential to impact the LCS summer split and why? You know where to send those answers. At LOL Esports, hashtag LCS. We on the desk will be breaking down what you've been saying later in the day. Now, it is time to dive into our first best of 5 between Giants and Reason Gaming. Let's get right into it by taking a look at the lineups. The teams are on stage. I know they are in good spirits, and we'll start with Giants looking to defend their LCS spot. Werlib, Frederick, Pepinero, Adri, Rydell, and their coach Lothark. And hoping to go pro will be Reason Gaming. Cubon, Zayu, Take Fun, Saliva, Libic. And back on the stage after a hiatus, it is Veggie. So guys, we've been talking a lot about the big picture. Let's start by talking about one of the teams in this battle, Giants. They climbed ahead of Meet Your Makers in week 9. They look better than they have in a while. I feel like individually, they all stepped up right at the end of the split. And I'd like to know, Sheepy, if you agree from watching their games.
Yeah, I think that Giants just found a little bit better into their playstyle. They played those more aggressive champions, went more for Diana mid lane, where Pepinero had a really strong performance as well. And also the matches against MYM, I think they just kind of go more towards the style where they burst somebody down and have like this early to mid game power spike. And I think that's something we will see again reoccurring in the series today.
And there's a really interesting evolution when it comes to Giants, was that we said constantly throughout the split they looked very one-dimensional, a little bit lost at times. They obviously have been playing and scrimming against Europe's best, and they have been getting better. It was just never really enough to start beating the top teams. However, the change they made was with their AD carry on Adri, and that's reflected in his stats. 20% of his total kills of the entire spring split were picked up in week 9 in their wins, really over the Copenhagen Wolves, and that best of 1 to decide who stayed in against MYM.
Yeah, and I think that individually they also showed creativity, which I was seeking out for them more. Pepinero stepped up with some really great plays. I remember both Nexus being contested at the same time, and Pepinero went for a really nice backdoor. And I think this is something I personally really enjoyed seeing. And I think Pepinero overall stepped up really immensely for the team. And now that they have other players as well stepping up for their team, I think this might be a really smooth run for them today.
I agree, and I think the big one you have to talk about is Werlib, playing that Hecarim, that all-in engages over and over. We have to mention they did play 3 games in the week instead of 2 because of the tiebreaker with MYM. I mean, this was an aggressive team-fighting Giants that we'd not seen earlier in the split. Cheapy, do you think they could continue to grow? Because again, we haven't seen these guys in 3-4 weeks now.
Yeah, I think maybe the pause did them really well. They came over as well, and they seem to be having a really good team synergy and really good karma in the team. So I think that if they fix their style and play to their strengths, which is, I think, the early to mid-game power spikes, especially now with the Hecarim, Diana, LeBlanc, all those champions that fit them really well, I think they can find a style that is very aggressive and very dangerous for them.
Yeah. If we see that Giants that burst people down in fights, Adri cleans up, this could be a comfortable series for them. Reason we know, just as we'll get to a little bit later, they're pretty comfortable themselves. However, there's a lot of weight on the shoulders of Giants, because there was a tweet that went out earlier from Adri, the AD carry, that said, you know, if we don't win here today, we'll have let down MYM, because it was their best of one. So the Giants still, they're fighting for their spot to stay in the LCS here.
Let's move on to Reason and talk about them as a team, because they weren't even meant to be in the playoffs, right? Reason actually placed 5th in the Challenger Series. Because Dignitas EU were unable to field a full roster, they actually forfeited their spot. Then all of a sudden, Reason take a game of Origin, which they hadn't done. Then all of a sudden, they beat out Gamers 2 in the 3rd place battle after digging super deep in their final game of the series. Like, very shocking. This is a team that has had so many difficulties, but seem to get better in the playoffs. Let's start with Stress. Do you think that's a fair assessment of Reason, because you've watched them more closely than most?
Reason have had a fair number of difficulties over a very long period of time. In general, something we've talked about a lot in the build-up to this game is Reason's inability to maintain a lead or even gain a lead in the laning phase. And we were thinking, how do we best visualize exactly how to show this? And when you take a look at Reason's games, we actually graphed them out here for their entire split. They were only ahead in 2 games at 10 minutes. But the positive side of this is you look at the 7 games they won, 5 of the 7 games with a deficit at 10 minutes, they came back and were able to overcome a 10-minute lead. So Reason, I don't expect them to take any leads in the laning phase.
I think it's very fair. I mean, when you look at that, how many times they're down, they've won games from behind. They know how to play with a deficit. Sheepy, this is something that maybe you have some insight in.
Yeah, I think that right now the metagame is just fitting them really well. If they go for those later team comps with Jinx, Tristan or something like this as a hyper carry, and they play to their strengths, then I think that right now the metagame with the double tank is just really fitting. We went for a similar style in a lot of our games where we just go with really late game comp, hyper carries, Kog'Maw, Jinx and something like this, and it works out really well because the aggressive style just dies out a little with the double tank metagame. So maybe Reason Gaming can hang on long enough in those game series and then decide the late game for themselves.
Yeah, let's step a little closer and look at Cubon in particular. With some of the prep we're doing in terms of numbers, this is a guy that, wow, he goes big or he doesn't go anywhere. I mean, 21 KDA in their victories. You want to contrast that with their losses? It's below 2. You know, 10 times performance difference for Cubon. That is something that you simply cannot rely on if you want to win a best-of-5 series and make it to LCS.
There's 2 sides to Cubon, as you've already alluded to. His Aurelia is pretty much great. It's one of the best Aurelias we have in Challenger, which is why it's banned. Then you put him on something like a Maokai where he can stay alive, he's fine. But as you already said, in their losses, he falls behind, can't make plays from there. And it's a bit of a weakness at times for Reason Gaming.
Yeah, we'll have to see how he handles himself. He will be going up against Werlib, and we'll see whether or not Werlib has expanded his champion pool. A lot of questions that will be answered shortly as the game is about to get underway. So let's head over to our Shellcasters to take us into the series.
Thank you very much, Quickshot. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Richard Polscam, and it's a privilege to be bringing you today's play-by-play with the Dane himself, Martin Deficio Lunga.
The Dane himself, I like it. And let's see what these 2 teams can do here. Giants, on paper, would be the favorites. I mean, if you look back to expansion tournament where these 2 teams faced each other, getting into the LCS, 2 best out of 5s, 6-0 Giants, 3-0 both times, and Reason Gaming weren't even close. Now, an entire split of LCS practice for Giants. On paper, they should be even stronger compared to then. I can't wait to see what Reason has prepared to make up for maybe this skill difference that could be.
That's true. I mean, a lot has happened since these guys last faced each other in the expansion tournament. We were talking before. Veggie is now the coach for Reason Gaming, and how much has he done with the team to change their playstyle coming out of playoffs from the Challenger Series?
Right. So Veggie, he joined just before playoffs started.
Yeah.
And yeah, this year is this split, of course, here in the Challenger Series, and he was coaching Rocket, if you go back to last year, where they had quite some success. They made like top 4 in Europe, and he wasn't there this year for them. How much that has mattered, we don't know. But he's a coach that really loves Korea. He will always look to Korea and what SKT and like G Tigers and the top teams are playing. We have to see if that adapts into the pick and ban phase. Now the Reason Gaming had a few weeks to play here because Sivir has been such a big deal in Korea. You know, you control the tempo of the game. You go for these early dragons very often. It was something SKT used really well against CJ to come back in some of the games yesterday in the semifinals. Sorry, That is different compared to recent gaming we have seen in the playoffs here, because that's been Tristana and like just in general late game carries on Celavar. Surrender the early game completely, wait till 40 minutes, and then you try and win. They would have to change up that style if they want to go for the Sivir and control that early game instead.
Well, we've spoken a lot about picks and potential picks and maybe even team composition. We're going to get the answer to some of those questions as we get into Champions like Mr. Defis show. And the first two bans are Zed and Jax.
So if you ban the Jax for reason, I would ban Hecarim as well. Otherwise, you would expect Warlip to first pick that one. It really worked so well for him in the last week of the EU LCS, where they managed to beat MYM and get into this promotion tournament. So I would take away Hecarim. It is going to be a contested pick for both Coupon and Warlip up in that top lane, but Zed, not really surprising to take fun.
Yeah, taking it away from take fun there. I feel like I've said that line quite a lot during the Challenger series, but well, we will have the Sivir ban up against Adri as well. It's also very interesting they ban Zed, because last time it was kind of baited into them. It's like, oh, Zed's open, I'll pick it, and then he lost with it.
Yeah, because Vladimir came in as a counter pick.
Yeah.
Giants obviously is on blue side, so they could potentially last pick it. And Zed, despite Pipinero being such a fantastic assassin player, it's never really been his champion. He played it once, he lost with it, got like 1 kill only, and we never really saw it ever since. It's been more about LeBlanc and Ari for Pipinero in that mid lane. Hecarim does come in now, as we just talked about, and Sivir, I like that. You take it away from Atri, because Atri also showed that he can dictate the pace of the game on that champion. And there was the style that worked for Giants here in the end was the let's close our eyes, pop all our ultis, and have like a hard engaged comp that barely can't fail.
Yeah.
Sivir is very important, and Hecarim is very important in that composition.
And those have been taken away, so Giants will have to change up their ideas or just throw another couple picks in and try and make it work. Of course, in this meta, there are a lot of picks that can fill in the blanks, but it's just a question of whether they practice them. Also, Kalista was the last ban from Giants Gaming. Celavar has had 4 games on that during the Challenger series. In fact, he's played a lot of different AD carries.
Yeah.
Basically played everything, so yeah, just the style that they want to go up against. Plus, it is the pick that Korea likes a lot, and well, if they're going to go for a Korea-type composition as they lock in Urgot and Rek'Sai.
It's super weird with Urgot here in Europe. Very few teams like to play him. Like, if you look at the spring finals we had between Unicorns, Aloft, and Fnatic, nobody played Urgot. It wasn't even a ban or anything. Now, recent gaming clearly showing that they also trust in one of the comps they ran in the playoffs. Against Gamers 2, the game that decided that recent gaming would go to promotion tournament was like full tank setup with Urgot as an AD carry for Celavar. So with that one locked in, it's still a flex pick, can go mid lane. I'm not expecting Take Fun to play it. I think it's going to go to Celavar, but we're going to have to see what the rest of Reason decides to build. Rek'Sai as well. We've seen Cinderhulk Rek'Sai in Korea quite a lot. Otherwise, the standard here in Europe is the Warrior Enchant, and you just try and really snowball that early game with it.
Yeah, honestly, Urgot does not strike me as a take-fun champion, and Celavar has had a game on it before, so we'll probably be seeing it there. We do see the LeBlanc from Pepinero, also with Rydal sitting on his Thresh, so I'm very confident with that champion. But yeah, we were talking about LeBlanc and how Pepinero will most likely go for a snowballing champion, trying to get that early game lead.
Hello, tanks.
For Giants. What's that of a response? How are you doing, LeBlanc? Let's pick up Northless and Maokai.
Yeah, Reason Gaming going full tank. I would expect Vladimir to come in as a last pick for them now. And they run this Vladimir Urgot setup, Urgot AD carry, Vladimir mid lane, and yes, it's a fairly slow scaling in that sense, but Urgot has a super good laning phase, a super strong mid game to kind of make up for it. And you also add in that Rek'Sai with potentially the Warrior Enchant, so you got some components that can do well early on as well, and you just have fantastic scaling. I mean, your late game team fights, they're gonna be so long, and you have so much sustained damage that unless Giants creates one pick in the start for Pepinero, they're simply gonna get out-sustained in the fights themselves. But I'm happy to see Pepinero stick to Assassins, because he can win his lane, he can roam away from Take Fun, and he can impact the other lanes, and there's Vladimir most likely coming for them.
I feel like I've seen this one before. But Giants Gaming, they will lock in the Lucian for the early game, the mid game. He's kind of the jack of all trades. He does well in all phases of the game, but maybe not as well as some other AD carries who spike at different phases. But the Shyvana will come in as well. We may see a Smite teleport, as a lot of top lane Shyvanas have been doing so.
Yeah, it's still 5.6 we're playing on here in the promotion tournament as well. So Cinderhulk hasn't been nerfed, Gromp has not been nerfed either. It's still the 10% from it. And also Shyvana has just worked as a counter pick to the likes of Maokai, because you simply out-trade him once you get that skirmisher Saber. You can put pressure on that lane. If you take the tower, you can start invading into the jungle, and Maokai simply cannot follow you. I think what Reason is talking about now is, can we stop the LeBlanc pick from going crazy in the start, or is our comp maybe a little bit too slow scaling? It's going to be a lot about defensive warding and trying to always push that mid wave with the Vladimir, despite it being very hard to see if you can force Pepinero to sit at his own tower. That should not be happening, though. I'm really expecting Giants to put focus around that mid lane, so we can see the roams from LeBlanc. You got good lanes all around, honestly, for Giants. Strong laning setup. Thresh Lucian is not a bad lane either. So definitely have the tools to get that early lead, which we know Recent Gaming always struggles with, the early game. I mean, every single player on this team at 10 and 20 minutes is behind in CS, on average, if you look at all the Challenger games they've played. So Giants here should really be looking to try and get that early lead, snowball from there. If you go full late game, it becomes really difficult against all these tanks.
So the funny thing about that, you were talking about Recent Gaming being behind at 10 minutes, most of Giants are as well, apart from Pepinero. So a lot's going to ride on his shoulders. Frederick will most likely spend a lot of time in there. I remember back at the promotion tour, he spent basically all of that time there. See Veggie on the screen.
Look at Veggie. Constant talking here, trying to tell his team what they should do with this compensation. How do we play that early game? As I just mentioned before, early defensive warding is going to be such an important thing for them, because they have to be able to spot when this LeBlanc is roaming around. If they can control Pepinero, they can very safely sit and farm up. Urgot Nautilus is not going to die in the 2v2 lane for them. Maokai can hold his own before the Skirmisher Saber comes in completed for Shyvana as well. So I feel like they are definitely tools for Recent Gaming here to go late.
Oh, yes. Yes, indeed, Deficio. But here we can see the team compositions coming up. But remember to hop on Twitter and use those hashtags GIAWin or RGWin to get in your votes, and we'll be checking on in that in-game. Talking about in-game, we're about to get in there, Deficio, for our very first game of the promotion tournament here in EU. Giants Gaming versus Reason Gaming in this first game of the best of 5.
And I was asking on Twitter earlier what people thought, like which two teams will qualify for the LCS. Nearly everyone agreed on Rocket would make it in. And now, a lot of people also said Recent Gaming. They have a lot of support. People think they can beat Giants, and Giants obviously has looked fairly shaky in the LCS. But I still just go back to that expansion tournament, where I thought Recent Gaming would be one of the favorites also to make LCS. They simply couldn't handle Giants on the individual level. They would fall behind in terms of the laning phase. They couldn't stop Pepinero in the mid lane, and they couldn't gain an advantage elsewhere on the map. That has to change for Recent Gaming, unless they want to risk falling really far behind and hope Giants is unable to close it.
Yeah, well, you heard them talk earlier about Giants Gaming and how Reason didn't feel like they had properly prepped for them in the expansion tournament. So now they've had a long time to prep for their one opponents that they're playing in this best of 5. So have Giants. Following the end of LCS, it's been a long time since then. So all of these, well, both of these teams should have had the preparation in place. But it's a big difference from having those regular stage games.
And that's why this game 1 is going to be so important, because it's going to show both teams what have they learned. If Recent Gaming were expecting to go late every time because Giants couldn't close the game, and suddenly they show after like 25 minutes they just fully control the map and take it, suddenly the whole strategy has to change from the Recent Gaming side. But that's really what game 1 is going to show. It's a best out of 5. You can afford to lose the first one to try and adapt to what happened. Obviously, it's not the case you want to be in. But definitely not in a promotion tournament where you're playing for the LCS spot.
Yeah. So here we do have the Giants in the bot lane. We'll be going towards the Crux. Looks like Recent Gaming will be doing just the same. There's a very beefy bot lane though with the Urgot, the Nautilus. Zaya will be smiting that one away, so he will get the buff, the Gift of the Toadstool, which will allow him to get through his jungle fairly quickly. He'll be soloing up the blue buff as well.
Yeah. Fairly standard start. If you have a lane where you want to make sure they rush down and only lose at maximum 1 melee creep, you just have your jungler smite it, as you said, to get the buff, and then he just does the blue buff on his own. He's going to fall fairly low with the Rek'Sai now. Didn't even lose a single melee minion because of it. So they're going to get level 2 on the first range minion here. Look for them to start playing very aggressive if Giants does not expect it in time. Libic is already taking control of the bottom side bush here, and there's the level 2. They're already forcing Giants away. This is very important for Recent Gaming.
Yeah, Libic has control over that bush currently. Meanwhile, the junglers are heading into the opposing jungle from Zayuk. There's the harassment 1. E comes down from Celeber, and all the Acid Hunters will follow. Those corrosive charges are very annoying to play against. Zayuk will be taking the first crab of the game in the bottom river. There's the hook, lands onto Rydal as well, follows up with the Acid Hunters and the auto attacks.
That's still level 1 on the side of Giants. Now, Adri at least got level 2 for himself. There's a lot of potions being used suddenly, and also Zaryo here, despite falling a bit low in the blue buff, by him doing the Rift Scuttler, he builds up some more rage, then he goes underground again, so he sustains quite a bit from it, and that's going to keep him okay healthy. But I'm not expecting any early ganks. I think he's going to have to go back to base first, get one of these wards here, upgrade his Hunter's Machete, but then maybe we can see him start impacting the map. We know he's going to be stronger than the Gragas in the early stages, but already around level 6, then Gragas is going to be okay if they do end up finding each other. You can always disengage with that ulti.
Well, in the bot lane, there is a pretty serious CS difference opening up here, 16-7. There is a big minion wave heading towards them. Just a question of how much they can get of that, while Celever will be trying to aim that corrosive charge. Wow, right through the minions. Does manage to connect it, but it just means that Aju will take even more poke from Celever.
Yeah, it's funny with Urgot. He's one of these champions that has so many small power spikes on the web with the first few items. Even getting a tier is in great form because it opens up for this poke. You can see how he's running out of mana now from Celever. Once tier is completed, that's not really going to be a problem. Then you get the Brutalizer. That's another one where suddenly you start doing a lot more damage. And all these small spikes here is very important for Celever to use in this dark. When he played Urgot against Gamers 2 in the third place match, he lost the lane phase. He fell behind. He had no impact. Pepinero, though, he has quite some impact in the mid lane.
Yeah, Take Fun getting a little greedy there. He just kind of stepped forwards and was on low HP. He did eat the Ignite, but Pepinero has used both of his summoners. Take Fun will go back to base, has both of his summoners available, and is actually still drawing, even if not slightly ahead of Pepinero. So even though the aggression was there, you have to question who actually came out ahead.
Well, Pepinero's main goal here was to force the Vladimir back and then push in the wave. You can see how Giants is already, if you look at the river, established quite a ward line, already got a ping ward because they know they can always defend it with the LeBlanc in that mid lane. So they're trying to take over that side. Looks like actually Pepinero was not aiming to push it in, but instead was creating a big freeze, trying to get a bit of a CS advantage. He's already been back to base once. I missed that one. That's why he sits on the second Dawn's Blade. So yeah, honestly, Take Fun saving the summoners. Not losing a whole lot on it.
Interesting. So Frederick looking for this early dragon here, and it is completely de-warded. As you mentioned, that warding line is kind of in the advantage of Giants Gaming right now, so it doesn't have anything to contest it.
And this is what you can do. If you know your bottom lane is pushing up and you have these safe wards, especially the ping, so you're not... I mean, there's really no reason for Recent Gaming to run down here. You can take that early dragon, so it's a really good setup from Giants. All built around them saying, we can contest the wards we place in a river, and once we feel like we have enough control and push out one lane, in this case the bottom lane, we go for that early one. It is spotted, they saw the buff, obviously from Recent Gaming, so they're gonna have the timer. But when you play against compositions that will try and snowball early to mid, losing a dragon at 5 minutes is very, very risky, because then suddenly that fifth dragon, it comes closer and closer and closer, and already around 30 minutes, that's going to be a thing where Reason will be forced into a team fight they might not want to take if Giants can keep controlling dragons.
Yep, everything is going right so far for Giants Gaming. They will continue to try and get those small advantages in the early game. Have seen a lot of people go back to base, pick up their first couple items. Double Darrens in the mid lane, as you already talked about, but in the jungle, Frederick, no surprise, is going for the Cinderhulk with the Trailblazer. Top lane also doing the same. Got the smite from Werlib in the top lane.
And we can see here how Pepinero, by forcing Take Fun back, got quite a CS lead with the minion wave pushing down towards him. There was only 3 or 4 for Take Fun to pick up once he returned to lane. And Pepinero also hit level 6 first. Looking for more trades, but we have a Rek'Sai in the bush.
We do.
Also have a Gragas on the other side. 2 junglers, both looking at 1. Potentially for the counter gank, and Zayu here, of course, to try and stop Pepinero. If he jumps in, if he uses Distortion with no flash, look for the Rek'Sai to go in.
Well, Frederick has been seen out by that ward, and he knows, well, at least Reason Gaming know he's now gone into his bottom jungle. Pepinero is kind of high and dry right now. There is the Distortion. It means he's going to have to flash away. Actually gets disrupted during the dash from the second Mimic, and it's just a matter of time before he ticks down from the Hemo Plague. First blood over to Vlad.
That was such a good play by Reason Gaming. So he Distortioned in first. I know he has a second one on his ulti, but the flash interrupted the Blanc mid-air, stopped her dead in her tracks. Then you managed to open up for Vladimir to get his ulti down. You secure first blood. Great timing for Reason Gaming, and they were just sitting there waiting for that one move from Pepinero. He used the flash earlier. You mentioned how, was it a good trade, was it a bad trade? Yes, he got a bit of CS on it, but it meant he was open for ganks.
And we were talking a lot about Zayu during the Challenger Series, and there was kind of a lot of hype around him because he's a mechanically good player, but honestly didn't turn up that much during the Challenger Series. And then, just there, you saw the mechanics from him. He's got the ability to do so, and he's doing it on the big stage.
Yeah.
You can see the fans at home, 64% over to Giants. Kind of to be expected, they are the LCS team. They have been scrimming and playing against those top teams. But Reason Gaming, they have the ability to take it late. They have the ability to take down the top teams. We saw it even against Origin.
We did. They got the game 1 against Origin, which was one of those games where Reason managed to go late game. They stopped Origin. Every time they went to Baron, we got to like 45 minutes, and Celebar playing Tristana in that game just started becoming a massive carry, obviously. Urgot won't have the same damage, but it's a different kind of style. You're going to be so tanky instead, and with full armor penetration, your sustained damage is okay. And you're just so hard to take down. Now, ulti on the artery.
Oh, there's the depth charge. There's a hook onto Rydal. Was not expecting that one. There comes the position reverser onto Rydal, and he goes down with Zayu coming in for the assist as well. They'll walk through the box. And that's another kill going over to Reason Gaming. And Celebar will be happy to clear up the rest of this mini wave and throw that towards Adri.
CC Chin now, another gang in the mid lane.
With the flash, the body slam, the ultimate as well, right into Pepinero. We do have the teleport down from Kuban. It may be too late, and yes it is. Comes out with the arcane smash, but it's not enough damage to take down a LeBlanc. So a kill in return for Giants. But from the bot lane, it's Libic and Zayu, the diving buddies, with the diver himself, Nautilus. But he will decide to back away from this one. Werlib, meanwhile, was taking out those Raptors.
Red buff and Raptor taken from Werlib on this Shyvana here. Late TP coming from Kuban. Couldn't save his mid laner, so Giants, despite losing a few kills on the bottom side, or one kill, does manage to turn it around, and we cannot ignore the fact that Werlib has already been invading into the enemy jungle. We have to remember, even though he's even in CS, the jungle camps, especially once he gets the Skirmisher Saber, is going to count for a lot more gold for him. So we're going to have to keep track of that if he can keep invading in and taking buffs from Reason Gaming out and camps.
Yep, so that did send Takefun back to base, and he has picked up his Hextech Revolver and the Null Magic Mantle, so we'll see where his item build goes this game. It's typically, of course, the Zhonya's Hourglass, the Abyssal Scepter with the Will of Ancients. It's just which configuration and which order he's going to go in.
I feel like when you're against LeBlanc in lane here, just have the Hextech and then go for that Abyssal Scepter. You don't really need to upgrade your Hextech instantly. It's not that big of a deal for you in the start. So just get that Abyssal as early as possible on Vladimir, and you can really start sustaining really well. And you just focus on power farming. You're already falling behind in CS. Pepinero has been controlling the lane. Only little misstep for him, I guess we can't even call it a misstep, was that jump in very aggressive trade. Rydal and Frederick are looking for take fun.
Well, he's already used the Sanguine Pulse, so he's going to have to try and run out. He's already used the Ghost, gets knocked up against the wall as well. The hook goes wide, doesn't quite land. Rydal just wasn't in range. Face plants the wall, and that means that Take Fun gets away. That was not as intended.
Didn't look too pretty here. Pepinero could have secured that kill, I believe, on Take Fun, but once again, it's Giants roaming into this mid lane here, trying to apply pressure on the Vladimir, really keeping down 60 CS only for Take Fun.
Yeah, well, he is ahead in that lane, at least. He's got that going for him. Meanwhile, in the top lane, it's completely even. It's just kind of two big tanky dudes fighting up against each other. Bot lane, though, the advantage has actually swung back in favor of Adri since the early game. Celebar has still been farming up fairly well, but that advantage to Lucian will be fairly nice as they progress into the mid game and try and increase that advantage that they need to get against this late game scaling team from Reason.
Yeah, what you really want for Giants is some good burst damage in the first few team fights. Vladimir is one of those champions. If you have burst, you can either force him to early pull, lose a lot of HP, or you can simply just kill him in one CC chain. Let's see what happens here, though. We was talking about CC.
Rydal waits for the flash, lands the dredge line as well. There's the flay, but well, we've seen this one before, and he is dead.
The amount of CC, I mean, Nautilus ulti,
yeah,
then
you're not going to move for a while.
Then you get swapped by the Urgot, then you get knocked up by the Rek'Sai. I mean, you're just stuck in place for such a long time. That was a kill for Reason, so Frederick cannot start this dragon. Reason should look themselves, honestly, to secure this one. Stop Giants from getting all these early dragons. You know the support is dead. Take Fun, though, is staying back at his own tower, and the Urgot is just pushing in because Libic went back to base. So they didn't want to try and use that one kill to force a fight at a dragon. Still alive. I feel like that's one of the plays you can make, especially because you didn't, while you invested ultis, you were not low on HP or anything.
Oh, meanwhile, in the bot lane, though, Pepinero from the sidelines. There's the ultimate once again with the lockdown, knocks him against the wall, jukes in the burst for vision, but it's not too long before the Urgot goes down. And that is another kill over to Giants.
We talked about how Reason Gaming needed defensive wards to try and spot Pepinero. Look at the jungle of Reason Gaming, there's nothing. It's 2 wards from Giants and then a few tunnels from the Rek'Sai. So Pepinero could move from the lane down behind Celebar. Probably didn't even expect anything and simply ends up dying. So both teams been trading kills. Now, once again, they want to take fun.
The hook doesn't land, but Take Fun's already used the Sanguine Pool. He doesn't have flash, he doesn't have ghost, he's going to get flayed, and he's going to get toasted. I didn't quite rhyme. I tried. And so did Take Fun, but it didn't work out. Zion out, taking up this crab with Libic. The dragon is still alive. It's 13 minutes into the game.
Yeah, but nobody wants the dragon
to go over
because they can keep killing each other in the lanes. Either you chain CC from Reason, you get a kill with the gang from a Rex side, or you have people either roaming to mid or roaming to bottom lane. And nobody really seems to respect when people are missing on the map. And therefore they just get caught out again and again and again. And there's not enough wards to spot the roams either. But yeah, Dragon is alive. So if Reason knows this blue buff is being started, it could be the opening for them to at least set up some vision around it. We can see Lipic already moving into the Raptor camp. So using that information really well to get these wards down. One of them was just outside the bush for him, sadly, but it should still spot if people are moving in there. So Reason Gaming has good control around it. You have a lot of engage. Righteous Glory already completed for your Maokai. You have to swap from an Urgot, so you can set up a fight here. And if Giants comes in uncoordinated, you just instantly engage on one target and take them down. Could also be a poor little support walking into a bush.
We could see that in a couple of seconds.
Oh,
the Rider.
there's one.
He's found a hook. He's also found a lot of CC.
Here's some CC, mate.
Yeah.
3 times now.
Rider. Not having a good game. He's on his fresh as well, but
now we
not
go
in
Dragon.
the right place. Yeah, I mean, the support's dead, and Frederick is around there, so he could potentially steal. They do not have any vision, but they do have the barrel, but of course this is going to disengage, drag it out for now. Pepper Nero comes in from the left-hand side, and Reason Gaming give it up.
Reason Gaming has 4 members right here. They have TP in the top lane, and they still have ulti on an Urgot. You should not be afraid of 3 guys from Giants walking in to stop you. This Dragon should not go over to Giants. Reason has to go in there and stop it right now. Otherwise, they just gave a free objective to a team having only 3 members around it.
Frederick didn't even land a smite. That went down to Adri as well, so the opportunity was even there to steal. But yeah, Celeber just completely gave up the ghost. He went bot lane. Take Fun didn't even move from mid lane, he just carried on farming. Now the bot lane's trading off. There's the culling. He's going to find some minions, getting that sick farm. But still, it's kind of weird from Reason Gaming. It was just a weird decision.
It's being
and a
overly
Dragon
safe.
there would have delayed the game even further for them.
Yes, it's being overly safe, honestly, for Reason. They're like, okay, we can start this one. We don't really feel too confident. We don't know how to handle the LeBlanc, so let's just back away instantly as it shows. And when you play like that, it's too easy for the other team to take advantage of it and get these objectives here for 3. 2 dragons now for Giants, 15 minutes in. Should have been 1 for 1, and then the 5th dragon thing is out of the window, because that's not going to happen for such a long time, where Reason will be strong enough to fight. We have to see if that comes back later in the game to haunt them. If we get that situation where Reason has to force themselves down to stop Giants from taking an objective because of what happened here in the early game.
Yeah, but let's just gears a little bit and take a step back. So Giants do have that small lead in this game. It's small, but not insignificant. But take a look at the item builds as well. It is the smite in the top lane from Werlib, which means he's now got the Warmogs and the Skirmishers plus the Cinderhawk, so he's already benefiting from that extra HP. Mid lane, of course, actually has opted towards the Will of the Ancient over Abyssal Scepter first.
Very much depends on the gold you have.
Yeah.
It's just like when you go back to base, if you have enough gold to complete your Abyssal or maybe get a Blasting one, you can aim for that one. In this case here, Take Fun was sitting on Hextech and just a Tome. So he probably just went back and had enough gold to upgrade this one. Decided to go for it. No real big deal for him. He already has some of that early magic resist we were talking about against the LeBlanc.
Yeah, it's not going to hurt him too much. Has been caught out a couple of times, even with his Summoners and Sanguine Pool. Maybe happening again here. He just responds with some damage. The chains do follow you through the pool, and Frederick just blows him over the explosive cast. That was actually more damage than I was expecting. He doesn't even have his 2nd tier ultimate, still at level 10. That's another kill to Take Fun.
Yeah, again, it's the thing against Vladimir, when you have some burst damage, it doesn't even matter if he pulls as long as you can lock him down, and you just take him in a matter of seconds. Don't let him run around, sustain himself with his Q, with all the spell vamp he builds. Yeah. Therefore, Giants set it up really nicely. Pip Arrow always looking to land the chain just to lock him in place despite pulling from Take Fun, and then knowing there's backup. And I feel like we mentioned this in Champ Select, how Giants can look to have so much focus on the mid lane, get Pip Arrow fed so he can start roaming, and they really put so many ganks from Frederick around that lane. He's been there nearly all the time, and he's gotten 2 kills for it.
Bot lane, just one E. One corrosive charge results in 3 acid hunters, and that results in 60% of Adri's health. He's gone back, he's picked up the brutalizer, he went up actually back with a lot of gold, has gone with the glacial shroud as well. That was a big spike in damage from him. And you were talking before about those little spikes of damage, little spikes in the game for Celiva. He's found one right now.
Yeah, they all matter, and all together they suddenly become some quite big ones for the Urgot. Now he's one of the first roams from Pepinero towards the top side. He went bot already and killed Celiva. This tower is open, and with Adri taking so much poke damage from before, Reason Gaming making a bit of a power play, sending down the jungler. I like that move at least. You're trying to trade objectives. You're saying, if you want to make a play topside, fine, we take your tower bottom lane, and we just try and even it out in terms of gold, which of course is going to be the thing for Reason Gaming. You need gold to get these tanks here scaling up to the late game. It doesn't just come with levels for them.
Wow. We're in another early game to Fisho, and it's another early game in which Reason Gaming are behind. They are currently behind around 2,400 gold, so it's not the biggest differential we've seen during the Challenger Series, but it is one regardless, and Giants see if they can take advantage of that.
Yeah, now we have to see if Giants has learned anything the last month, where they've been practicing during the playoffs of the LCS, but we haven't seen anything from them. Because the thing about Giants, in the LCS, they were always very good at creating a lead early on. Frederick was very active on the map. They had some good ganks, good setups, because they had good individual players like Pepinero in the mid lane. But whenever they got that goal lead, and we got into mid-game, it would just stop. Giants wouldn't know how to push the lead. They would run around trying to force a team fight they didn't have to, and suddenly get in a disadvantage. And suddenly not use that early game, go late game, and then fall behind. We have to see if they've improved it, if they can close out games. We're only 20 minutes in, so it's not right now. But you have that lead. Joe LeBlanc is in a good position. You have one item completed, second one coming in probably fairly soon for Pepinero. He has like 2,000 gold on himself now, so he's waiting for that death cap before he goes back. Then you have to be able to push it. Third dragon should belong to you once you have death cap on your LeBlanc. You have that split pushing Shyvana here who's going to beat the Maokai every single time, even building Blade of the Ruined King for World Leap. So nobody can stop him one-on-one from Reason. This map should belong to Giants the next 10 minutes.
It should, in theory, but theory doesn't always translate to the Rift of Hishio. We'll see if Giants can execute that well.
Pepinero has to go back though.
Yeah, we do have
before
Celiva
Dragon.
and Libic. He will have to do so. He's still mounting up a lot of gold. No doubt after this minion wave, unless he dies, that'll send him back to base. Take Fun and Zayu coming in for the gank here. Pepinero has used his flash. There's a big summoner spell down with Dragon on the horizon. Even so, he should be able to get in range to burst his target. It is a question of who's he going to go for, though. Celiva doesn't have any magic resist. He's only just gone for the Mercs. And Take Fun as well. There's the death cap.
Yeah, he just had enough gold for death cap. That's why he stayed in the lane. And he decided to give up vision around Dragon because you have to recall in time. Like 90 seconds is what people often say is where you got to start moving into that Dragon and start controlling it. You get a few depots in enemy jungle and then you set it up correctly. So you should have backed before that. But because he wanted that death cap so badly, he recalled a bit late. They are here now. Giants has to move in, try and contest this one. You can one-shot people with Pepinero, but Reason Gaming has finally decided already to start it. TP coming in.
It's coming in. There is the spike going down. It goes over to Frederick as well. 3 dragons over to Giants, and there's now damage control from Reason Gaming. They may be able to take out the dragon here on the way through. They pick him up. Kuban gets dragged into the fight. He'll be flashing away. Oh, the knock-up as well from Zayu, trying to get onto that back line. The Hemoplague lands onto Adri, but there's not too much damage to follow through. Sanguine Pool will get him away from the fight, but there's no real CC to lock him down. A 1-0, but in exchange for the dragon, Giants still come out ahead.
Giants technically come out ahead, yeah, with that one dragon. Take Fun. Taking a bit of damage. No ulti yet for Pepinero. He's going to chase for it.
Yep. Another Q, another Sidra Malice will be flashing away here. Follows up with another Distortion and the Ignite. He'll just tick down and bleed out. I would have thought he'd have more blood in him.
We did get to see what Reason Gaming can do in a fight. If they're set up before and if they can get to, you know, see these guys run through the big tank frontline of Reason Gaming, it was very hard for Pepinero to find a target and for Giants to take anyone down. So it was a 1-for-0 for Reason Gaming, and that was the advantage. Oh, Zayu. Be careful, mate.
Oh,
that's Trevor.
Hey, how's it going? What up?
I think Zayu just died, if you look at the player cam.
Maybe it was Trevor's face.
Could be. He's back, and Zayu...
Here we go. You blink and he's gone. Pepinero still farming up the mid lane. 3-1-3 in this game. 200 CS, well over his lane opponent, Libic. Missed the hook on a war.
What we have seen now, the last few minutes, is the Pepinero show has started. He's gotten really, really fed on this LeBlanc. He's starting to pick off targets. He doesn't even need to set up a trap necessarily. We just saw him walk in and take fun, who didn't respect the damage and just died, honestly. One-on-one to Pepinero. As long as Giants can keep that going for them. You have the bottom lane tower left now. So if you push in top and mid lane, you know Recent Gaming is going to have to leave that lane, and then you can just quickly rotate down and just take that outer turret. I mean, it's currently sitting on 25% HP, so it's a very easy rotation for Giants if they want that last outer turret. And then the map is completely open, and you just decide on one of the jungle sides, either bottom lane or top side. And you just say, okay, right here, we take full control, our LeBlanc sits, and if you ever walk into this jungle, Pepinero will one-shot you. And we can go take a Baron, we can take another tower, and it becomes very, very difficult then for Recent Gaming to sit and defend.
Okay, we're going to see the replay of that one. How Zayu
So at first he's like, oh,
so
someone could hit me there. I checked.
Found him.
And I still walked in range. Pepinero.
With the E.
Pops you in the very end.
Very nice. So, took him out. And now Recent Gaming are the ones pushing up. It was the split push. Pepinero this time, who takes down the bottom turret. Everything is still going according to the Deficio plan. Can they execute the rest of it? That's the question. Now Pepinero is in their jungle, trying to take out a straggler. But
started Baron. They were spotted on it.
Here.
There's 3 wards around it.
Has gone for the Blade of the Ruin King, so he does have that percent damage. But the ward over the wall will send them packing.
I don't mind you checking Baron. That's fine. Recent Gaming showed they had a few wards around it and moved in. As long as you still can defend this mid tower, but you don't have to give up any gold to Recent Gaming at this point. Pepinero is trying to trade it for a tier 2 tower on the bottom side.
Welcome to Zayu. It's not going to do all that much as a mid turret does fall, but the bottom inner turret goes to Pepinero, and Recent Gaming aren't getting too much done from this mid lane.
Well, you have 2 side lanes where Recent Gaming can't go and stop them. Pepinero can keep split pushing all he wants. Then he can walk from the lane into mid lane and like collapse on you from the side. Whirlip with their Blade of the Ruin King Shyvana, nobody's going to stop him either. So you just go 1-3-1 from Giants. If you feel like you can get some damage on towers, aim for that because you want to see if you can open up the base of Recent Gaming. Otherwise, you just move through their jungle and you're quickly going to be 4v3 in the mid lane. You have one-shot potential. Go in. Don't even care about tower. Just one-shot the Urgot. Tower is open for you.
Yeah, Recent Gaming just kind of have to hunker down here and just sit behind their turrets, try and just wave clear the best they can. And just try and get to that late game. But we've seen that they can do it. We've seen it happen multiple times with this team. Zayu on the hunt for Frederick and are able to at least take out some of these wards, but there's wards all over the Recent Gaming jungle from Giants. They are just pressing their advantage. They are doing it by the book, but maybe they could do a little more.
Yeah, we need to see an upgraded trinket for Whirlip in that top lane. When you are split pushing, having that greater stealth totem is so good because you can have 3 wards down on the map, which can basically cover every entrance to your top lane. So you can spot if Recent Gaming is ever sending up multiple members to try and kill you, and you can disengage in time or buy enough time for your team to then take a dragon or a tower on the other side of the map. So he needs to upgrade that one. Then he controls the top side in terms of warding. Your jungler with the sidestone can take around the mid lane, and your support can then go down towards the bottom side if you want to split up in 1-3-1 and just get deep wards in the jungle of Recent Gaming across the entire map. Well, Dragon, though, is going to be focused in 45. We mentioned how Recent Gaming, them not going for that second Dragon when they had the chance, can go back to bite them. We might get in a situation where they have to fight, and you don't want to face check Pepinero at this point.
No, you don't, and you really want those wards. And you know, Whirlip's had 10,800 gold in this game. It takes 250 to upgrade your trinket, and there's so much value from it. He's even level 17 at this point.
But can you kill people with a ward? Can you throw wards at people? No pulse.
No, but it stops you from
Items
dying.
kills people.
No, but if he had vision, then he can maybe kill Kuban as he did see him coming. Or he didn't, because he didn't have the upgraded sight totem.
But you
Think
can't
about
kill
that one.
people with wards.
Well, we'll see a situation where he'll block someone off with them. Either way, Giants are going into the jungle here. There's the teleport out from Kuban. He's going to be faster to the fight than Whirlip. Doesn't use his ultimate to disrupt him. Adri has been called out. That's so much CC. He's not going anywhere. Take Fun will get the kill there. Pepinero actually coming in from the left-hand jungle. He wasn't anywhere near that fight. Now Kuban will be recalling. He's going to try and stop the push from Whirlip.
Yeah, blue buff was being taken by Pepinero, so Giants walked in. Only 3 guys into the jungle, and Recent engaged on. They've been timing the buffs really well. Now, can they get a dragon?
Frederick, he has been positioned reversed. Okay, goes over to Zayu. When you're suppressed, good luck trying to smite it. Frederick will go down for that one, so they pick up 2 kills. Recent Gaming get the dragon as well, but Whirlip took the top turret, and they're still continuing to lose their base.
Yeah, lost the tower for it, but just getting that dragon is still so important to stop it. for Giants and really just took advantage of the fact that Pepinero was on the other side of the map here when they decided to move in. We've never really seen Giants take full control, except for the early game where they had the river controlling.
See ya.
Or river control. Now they've allowed Reason to get a few wards in every time, and therefore they can spot them out and get some engages, because they still have a fantastic team fight. The chain CC they can do, if they do catch you out from Reason Gaming, they will kill you.
Yeah, it's also the Mercury Tread party over in the Reason Gaming camp. Every single member has Mercury Treads, apart from Libic, who has gone for the mobility boot, which is fairly staple for the support, trying to get out of that CC and a lot of damage from Pepinero. 3-1 and 3 still. He's been like that for a fair while, but he has been farming exceptionally well for a LeBlanc. 290 farm has allowed him to pick up his Luden's Echo and the Sorcerer's Boots. He's a free-item mid laner. He does have the... that's a very interesting point, actually, because the dash will generate more, but is it actually valuable? Because, I mean, with Ari, yes, you get the extra movement speed from Q, generates more stacks. Ultimate, you get free charges. So is it worth it on LeBlanc?
For me, Luden's Echo is either first, second item or last item. It's not in between, because then you need Void Staff at this point. So he's delayed his magic penetration in that sense. And there's, as you just said, there's a lot of MR on the side of Reason Gaming. So Void Staff would have been fantastic for him to pick up here. Then you go Hourglass, and then you can go Luden's Echo as your number 5 item, your last damage item in the game. At that point, I don't think now is the most optimal way for him. But at the same time, he's so far ahead that he still has enough damage to take down targets. He's once again just pushing in the wave. If Take Fun shows himself, look for Pepinero to just jump at him instantly. Pool is gone as well now.
There's the flash, there's the Mimic Distortion, comes out with the change, doesn't connect. That means he'll be heading all the way back to his original pad. And the minion wave is pushing up there, but the split push Pepinero, there's taking 2 people to deal with him. That means the rest of the Giants will start the Baron once again, but also once again back off as the sapling goes over the wall. Oh, the flash into the body slam though onto Celiver. He tries to flash away Kuban and Zayu. Nothing they can do, but he also gets hooked in. He comes out with the tunnel, the follow through from Rydal with the death sentence. Now Libic trying to save his ally with the Riptide, but that's not enough CC. Another flay onto Libic, hook, line, and sinker. Goodbye, Nautilus.
And all the Giants were waiting for was for Reason Gaming to move in with a few people to check that Baron and just engage straight onto them. Nice start here from Frederick with this Gragas knocking back Celivar. 3 kills, that's going to be Baron. You got all the outer turrets down as well. Giants Gaming are looking very solid here in game 1, and they're showing to Reason Gaming, you cannot afford to lose your early game this hard. You need to be more decisive, otherwise we can run away with the games.
Well, Adri get out from behind the Baron because he does more damage. Good job. He's now taking out this Baron. Should be going down to Giants Gaming. Very little that Reason Gaming can do. And there is a Pepinero in their jungle. He's waiting. Patient bear. Will he find a target?
Come on, Take Fun.
You want to face check that. You want it. You want it.
Oh, no. He's a jungler. Oh, he's spotting. He moved. Pepinero.
Oh, Praise Seeker.
Gotta stay still, man, when there's a Rek'Sai. Cannot move around.
No.
Sayu doesn't manage to spot him, but everyone else from Giants has gone back to base. They've picked up quite some gold. Half that Baron, now we reset the whole thing. We go back to 1-3-1 from them. You got buffed up minions in every single lane, and you got 2 side lanes with a LeBlanc and a Shyvana that you cannot stop. If it's Shyvana against Maokai, you just walk in, you start hitting that tower a little bit, then you back away. Obviously, your Cinderhawk is annoyingly enough going to deal damage with the AoE and get the tower to hit you, but just get a few hits every time. Let the minions do some work, and simply just push Reason Gaming into a corner where they cannot stop you from always getting some damage on the tower.
Yep. If Tesco's has taught me anything, every little counts to this year. Oh, Willib going into the top lane. Yeah, he still has that Blade of the Ruin King, still has the skirmishes, so it's later on into the game, so this is going to continue to allow him to trade up against the tree. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Pepinero, hey, he's finally got a Void Staff. And that will be on his 4th item, so now he'll be able to cut through that magic.
We saved finally with 32 minutes in.
Yeah,
and his 4 items
super
completed.
fast, yeah.
So, I mean, you are...
2.5 items from Take Fun.
Very, 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 very fed on this LeBlanc, and there's been no answer for it all game long. The only thing Reason Gaming can really do in a big team fight is have Celivar sit ready for when he sees the distortion in, he pops his ulti and like try and swap him back and stun him, and you just have to take him down in that time. There's sadly also 4 other people you gotta care about. It's not just Pepinero. And here's Werlip, who decides, I can tank the tower a little bit.
Kuman's not having a fun time up against the Shyvana. Someone's going to have to help him. There's the ultimate, knocks back. Celaver wants to get into the team. He'll get locked down. Both teams have a lot of CC. And Libic again gets pulled into the team. The culling comes through. It's not quite enough damage, but will burn the flash from Nautilus. And the laser will keep them at bay for now. There's the chunk damage from Pepinero. Literally just the two sigils alone chunks Zayu hard. And that's enough for Giants to take the middle inhibitor turret.
Just so much stronger right now for Giants Gaming. Pepinero jumping in and out. Frederick with another great ulti onto Celaver, always knocking him back into his own team. It might not even be over yet. We still got the buffed up minions here. Look at the bot lane. That's going to push him with the wave top lane as well. So now Giants can just decide, do we want to take the bot lane tower or do we want to take the top lane?
Yep, constant pressure. We would like to stay healthy though, as 10 seconds on the horizon. Dragon will be spawning. So they'll be trying to loop back for that one. It will be their 4th of the game and puts Reason Gaming on the timeout. There's the chunk again from Libic, or onto Libic rather. He'll most likely want to go back to base, and here is the constant siege from Giants. There's the Hemoplague and the engage from Reason Gaming. Are they strong enough at this stage in the game? The ultimate through from Whirlib lands on pretty much everyone from Reason Gaming, and the follow-up from Adri is big. Thinks he's bang, and comes out with 1 and 2. Looking for another onto Celaver, and will be picked up by Frederick here. Takefun stays underneath the turret, looks for the triple, and will indeed get it.
Giants Gaming just so far ahead in this game here. We saw Reason Gaming to say, okay, we got to try and engage. I mean, we're going to lose our base anyway. Let's just go for it. Simply wasn't enough. The damage isn't there. And even the tankiness, because Giants are so far ahead, they look to close out game 1.
Well, they're going to try and do so. 5 members against 1 from Zayu. Not a whole lot he can do. Frederick just knocks him back onto the furthest point of his spawn pad. This will be game 1 going over to Giants Gaming up against Reason. That's a pretty convincing win if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, a very, very big part of this. Around that mid lane, Vladimir was the last pick for Reason Gaming into the LeBlanc pick for Pepinero. Clearly a matchup not in favor of Takefun. We saw every time LeBlanc jumped in, applied the chains. Yeah, you can pull it, but you still get snared, you get locked in place. Frederick was camping that lane, and he just created such a big lead for Giants. Takefun ended 100 CS behind Pepinero. Didn't even complete 3 items.
Yeah, so in the early game, it was actually kind of good from Reason Gaming. They picked up those 2 early kills, and they did get ahead.
They did.
You're smiling at me, Deficia.
Oh, no, I was adjusting my mic. Camera came back.
Oh, I see.
Honestly, but no, early game, we saw them put focus on the bottom lane with the ganks coming from Zayu, and we had the chain CC, which worked okay. That was just about it. And whenever Reason Gaming had a chance with a numbers advantage to force a fight or force an objective, they were afraid.
Yep.
Giants had to walk in 2 or 3 guys, and Reason was like, okay, we back away, it's fine. And you simply gave over all the map control because of that. The defensive warding wasn't there either to spot the roams from the mid lane. And then suddenly they started getting picked off, and it was just a matter of time before the last outer turrets were gone, and the entire map was open. And when there's a Fed LeBlanc, you cannot ward everything. You cannot always spot Pepinero. And if you ever send 2 guys to kill him, Baron was started, Baron was picked up, and it was game.
Yeah, it was honestly a cascade from the second dragon. You actually said to Fisher, will come back to haunt them, that they were playing so defensively. As they started it, they backed off, even though they had the numbers advantage. Well, yeah, it did. They ended up losing the game because they just didn't have the ability to push the game back up until the point where they were able to just outscale them.
Now Reason is going to be on blue side for this game here.
Yeah.
They banned the Sivir, which if they want to play a more objective-focused style in the early to mid-game, if they want to run this real Korean style where Sivir has been such a good pick as well, that could be a contested one, but they would most likely have to first pick it because we assume the Giants want it as well as a first rotation pick on that purple side because Adri played it so much in the last few weeks of the LCS and was so good on it. We're going to have to see what happens in that pick and ban phase, but Reason definitely has to either change the mentality or the playstyle early game. If they want to run a comp like this, you got to take every little advantage you can get, or they have to change it up completely and try and match Giants in terms of early game.
Yeah, and honestly, what's worked for them is trying to go for that late game. So if they become very one-dimensional, then yes, I mean, we'll see the same game over and over again. But either way, we are going to head over to the analyst desk with game 1 on the Bucks. So let's send it over to Trevor and the crew.
Thank you very much, Pulse. Let's take a look at game 1. Reason Gaming picks and bans. They had a late scaling comp. Deficio mentioned it. We were talking about it. Very similar to the comp that they took down Gamers 2 in their 3rd place battle. For Giants, I think they just went to a lot of comfort picks. Pepe back on an Assassin, split push for Whirlib. Nothing really surprising. What did you make from the comps?
Yeah, to reach out on that they picked the LeBlanc mid lane, which is, I think, the signature champion of Pepe. And he did exactly what he's always doing on LeBlanc. He's staying in the bush. He's putting everywhere pressure, and they are just so confined into their own vision that they can't reach out for doing any other objective play. And that just plays so much into their hands from all the other picks. Gragas for the pickoffs as well, and really power play. Shyvana, if she's left alone, she will just like push and get advantage and snowball the lane so hard. And bot lane Lucian Thresh is more of a safer play. You can easily get the pickoffs. You have the Thresh hook, you have the LeBlanc chains, and then you can just chain it up into a Lucian ultimate and deal a lot of DPS. And the Thresh Lantern just to pick some people out. In contrast, you have Reason Gaming with this really mid-late game centric, early mid games, more into like mid game with the Urgot, with the Vladimir, with the Rek'Sai, all those power picks that really have a lot of CC and have a lot of tankiness. And so it was like those two team comps playing against each other. And yeah, Giants coming out ahead.
Before we get into the maybe slightly smaller details, I want to very quickly talk about that Reason comp. Very similar to what they used, I believe it was against Origin, but at the same time, very similar as Deficio was talking about. The Urgot, we don't see it a whole lot in Europe. Very similar to what SKT and CJ Enters were kind of running with that quad tank style composition. But one of the really big things that undid Reason's game plan this game was just how good Whirlib was in this game. You look at his performances on certain champions, he's very much so fallen behind. He picked up Hecarim in week 9. This time he comes back with Shyvana. And you take a look at the difference between Whirlib in his averages in the regular split. At 10 minutes, his average CS was 60. In this game on Shyvana, it goes all the way up to 87 CS at that 10-minute mark. Take a look at the 20-minute mark, the same story. 141 CS is his average, 218 at 20 minutes. He got so huge on Shyvana, 4,000 health as we got later into the game, unstoppable in that top lane.
And it's good to see Whirlib doing well. It seems when Whirlib is controlling a side lane and Pepe is finding picks, that's how Giants win their games. It's how they played in week 9 and how they picked up some of their matches. Let's talk about Reason for a moment. They got first blood on Vladimir. Pepinero had his summoners blown, pre-level 6. That lane should have been a little in his favor. I mean, let's be fair, there's a big power disparity, but with first blood Vlad, maybe Reason should have done more.
That was one of the things I was a little bit worried on with that last pick, Vlad. It's great for scaling alongside the rest of your composition, but you give away basically your laning phase now up until about level 9. LeBlanc can just lay down so much damage, so rightly, they bring Rek'Sai in, they help out, get the first blood. It looks like it's going well, but Pepe was just constantly pressuring, constantly farming, and Vlad just ended up falling behind.
Yeah, I thought that after the first play failed from Pepinero, that he blew Flash and Ignite for no summoners, and it was really well played. The pool, dodging the chain, was a really, really big play. And from there on out, it was just smooth sailing. Let it push towards you, farm up, get like this power spike, play with the Maokai TP, set up for kills with the Urgot and Nautilus, which they actually had a lot of kill participation in the bottom side, and play it more out over the bottom side, but it didn't.
Yeah, they made Rydell basically the value of a minion because they kept killing him over and over, but that's the only thing Reason did well. We do have a replay much later into the game where Giants were showing their strength of their mid-game team composition, and Sheepy, I know you love Frederick's engage here.
That was a really nice engage. He eased over the wall, then flash onto the carry and puts the Urgot inside, getting him already 80% HP. And then just the follow-up, Whirlib so tanky already, could take the tower forever, and Rydell, what a nice hook. So close apart from the minion and killing Lubick again.
And just throughout this game, Frederick constantly had good engages. Laning, we saw a bit touch and go from Rydell and Adri, but they settled themselves after a while. Adri ended the game 5-1 and 4. Rydell started hitting hooks. There was just a lot more consistency once they were outside of the laning phase, which when we talked about Reason, how were they going to do at 10? Reason was still down, regardless of all the ganks, still down at 500 gold at 10 minutes. And Giants took that 500 and just blew it apart.
And it's interesting, right? Because you see how integral their sort of early mid-game weaknesses are. Yes, they were down less gold than their average, but they had this massive scaling team comp. They gave up early leads. Where do they go to fix this? Their blue side next game, Deficio was alluding to the Sivir being of importance. Sheepy, do you share that mindset?
I think it's a really strong power play. It like lets you disengage really hard and also engage you really hard. And this is something that is very, very strong if you play those one-dimensional champions where you want to go in, where you want to get the pickoffs. And I think that also they should fix a little bit in their TP play, maybe be more aggressive, especially if you have a split pusher compared to like a Maokai who wants to be in those team fights. Giving up the early Drake, for example, was something that they shouldn't have, especially when they have the TP up. Contest those things. Try to go for the objectives.
Yeah, and especially the Drake that they had 4 people around plus a teleport available, and Giants with 3 people push them off. That should never happen. If they want to take a scaling composition, you have to take those opportunities. And honestly, that's almost unforgivable for Reason to back away from that situation.
It's going to be very difficult for Reason to bounce back into this. They were down in CS in most of their lanes. Again, composition. The Dragon play was a big one, giving up the Dragon when they had the numbers advantage. We've already touched on picks and bans. With everything looking in Giants' favor, do you think that Giants are just going to take Game 2 despite being on the red side, despite having the opportunity to lose first pick?
I think that it's pretty much up in the air. I really like the Reason Gaming setup, and they played it fairly well. The gank mid lane for the first blood as well, after Peppy lost his flash, it was so detrimental, and they could have snowballed from this point onwards. I would like to see more TP play, and I think if they go for the same team comp, a little bit more decisiveness for the objectives, not giving them up so easily. And we could have a really interesting series on our hands.
And we'll find out if they can adapt. They do have Veggie, the coach, on stage with them to maybe help see those weaknesses as well. For now, the Giants are 1-0 up. There is a lot of league still to play today. As the team sets up for Game 2, we're going to hear from the Spanish squad on what it's like to go from being just another local team to hometown heroes.